Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Candid podcast. It's your host, Isabella Pasquale. On today's 10th Golden Nugget, we're going fishing. What do I mean by going fishing? Well, if you are in the business space and you are not an affiliate or part of an MLM, and you're creating your own business entity, you're basically creating your own job. You are paying to work for yourself. Now, specifically in the production space, if you are an executive producer, your job as an executive producer is to procure the capital to finance the project. Now, there are a lot of creative producers who are writers or people who are line producers who are middle management, which is perfectly fine. People want to make a career. But if you want to undertake this Herculean responsibility of being an executive producer, you have to procure the capital yourself. Now, historically, you would go to studios and you would pitch projects, and they may either get rejected or greenlit. If the project is greenlit, that means that the studio would either buy out the intellectual property and include it into their catalog. And more often than not, that intellectual property would be backlogged in their archive. And sometimes it's never seen the light of day, but the writers, they get a healthy six-figure check. If you want to be ambitious and take a gamble, then you would seek, private capital or finance it yourself, or, find some firms that specifically invest in productions. So you are going fishing to create your own job. In terms of entrepreneurship, and again, as you all know, I speak anecdotally for everything I talk about. If you're creating a business, and this is separate from, let's say, an insurance aggregate or, a credit repair company. So let's say you yourself, you have a widget, and you yourself are paying your supplier to provide such widget to the marketplace. Traditionally you would hold inventory, and then you would market it, and you would drive traffic to your funnel. And then you would do fulfillment and client acquisition. And then you would work on retaining your clients and pushing more widgets. So you're creating your own job. So for those of you who are ambitious, you understand what I mean by going fishing. Now, a lot of people, they claim to be entrepreneurs when they're in reality affiliates. I see a lot of people online, these digital nomads nowadays. They're repurposing people's courses. And then there is an oversaturation of courses online. And it's just a rehash of other people's material. But, there are people, internet marketers, who have been successful over the past decade, who have utilized that model. They've made a killing. Now, the middle class eats that up, and there's a sense of, false hope. Now, a majority of those courses that are purchased will never be finished. Maybe some people will, they'll complete 30% of the modules, but they won't go all the way to fruition and get the certificate of completion. That's not the business model that I'm discussing. I am talking about from scratch, creating your own business, or even in the case of white label products. A lot of people, they create white label supplements, and then they leverage their personal brand to push said white label product to the marketplace. A lot of fitness people, they either utilize affiliates with larger companies, or they try and create something themselves, which more power to them. I'm happy for them to accomplish that. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going fishing, and you have to procure your capital, and you have to make this happen. Now, there's a lot of services out there that they do these done-for-you models where you are basically your investor and they'll build it up from scratch. So I guess technically it's a JIP, but then again, they're building a system for you with their done for you model. Which, I mean, if you have your own capital, you just build it in house, you have these specialists. It's basically the same thing. You build up a team, you put them on your payroll, and you're taking a gamble. Same with every equity investor or any bank. They're taking a risk. So we are going fishing, if that makes sense, guys. And in my personal experience as a producer, I'd spent years pitching a slate to a number of different investors. Now, I actually wrote a Medium article, which you guys can click below, which it chronicles that experience where I had my slate, and I finally, after years, I secured a Hollywood director, attached a financier, and a number of other Hollywood names. So I had commitments from them. The director passes away during COVID, and the financier passes away during COVID. And so afterwards, I had a meeting with the financier's widow, and she was written out of the will. So that completely eliminated that conversation. But nowadays, in 2024, you have to be creative with your financing. A lot of people utilize IULs and they self-finance their projects. They funnel money from either their own business into an IUL, and then they can borrow against that IUL, and it is tax-free, and there's other exemptions. Now, I am not an insurance specialist, but you can find people who have that expertise. You could also marry into money. You really hustle and you put your capital in yourself. Now, you incur that risk, and I have risked that to varying degrees of success over the past decade. But again, this is the Candid Thoughts podcast. I speak from my anecdotal experience, so you guys can learn from your host. Now, there are people that have, accomplished their goals with different means. So I'm just encouraging you lot to go fishing and be creative yourself. Now, for those who are contractors or you are, work for hire people, there are companies nowadays that will contract you, people specifically, to invest your own capital into their business. And, I have experience with that as a work for hire contractor, where I incurred a lot of risk and I had to provide my own stationery and marketing materials to push products of parent companies who didn't even bother. Now, there's a lot of unethical business practices that are happening in the workplace, and I'd like to make a lot of you aware of that, but I'm being very cautious as to not, instigate cease and desist, which can happen. I'm just trying to broaden your minds, folks, so you're aware of certain things. The world is much bigger than getting a 9-to-5, especially nowadays, 9-to-5s with remote work. Why? So from a manager's perspective, why would I pay the same wages to a local American employee when I can find somebody who's college educated, who has the same credentials on paper with some foreign contractor who can do a better job, who is not lazy and is willing to go above and beyond. And I can pay a fraction of an American wage to a contractor overseas via Upwork or a number of those other services. So you guys have to protect yourself. Even employees have to consider going fishing because the world has changed. The internet bandwidth is readily available across most of the world, and even in the developing world. So you have to go fishing and make yourself an asset. You have to have skills of value that really differentiates you from the marketplace. Otherwise, you can get ass up, you get laid off, and what do? Most people go on unemployment and then they go back to school. Now, that is a safe That's generally the traditional route to go. Let's say you have a career change, the market changes, so you go back to school and you get a new career. Now, technology is advancing, and we are in the time of AI, where AI can handle all the administrative tasks, as well as, let's say if you are an accountant or an attorney, if that requires doing research. Now, attorneys, their job is researching case law, citing that, and presenting that argument to a judge in regards to a case. Accountants, obviously, they use, QuickBooks and other software. Now, if AI can utilize, can do the same thing that a human can, what's the justification for you to stay employed? Unless, of course, nepotism, you're grandfathered into a company, which not everybody has that luxury, which if you do, I'm happy for you, but not everybody enjoys that. Everyone has different familial backgrounds and they start from different points, which out of respect of everyone, that's fine. But for the rest of us, let's go fishing or consider going fishing. Otherwise, we're left behind, especially with AI. So I appreciate you guys, supporting me over the past several years with the Candid Thoughts podcast. I hope this conversation provides some value for my listeners. So, folks, keep going fishing. I believe in all of you. Keep pushing forward and fighting. I have my mantra, which you guys have been aware of. If you're paying attention, we stake our claim, we take what's ours, we'll have what we deserve. And citing Emil Coy with his mantra of every day and every way I'm getting better and better, and his belief that if you recite a mantra 20 times a day, it sticks with you. So that's something that I've implemented with my own philosophy. So you guys can utilize a mantra, hopefully a positive one, to keep pushing you forward so you can go fishing. And even if you deal with objections or setbacks, which is inevitable, and you guys are fully aware of my successes and my failures. So you guys can implement your own mantras to push you through, or you can use mine. So there's that. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning into the 10th Golden Nugget, Going Fishing. Keep pushing forward, guys. I believe in you. And tune into the next episode. See ya.